Welcome to part 1 of She Rejected the King's Love and This Happened, an African folktale story adapted from the great King Cophetua poem titled The Beggar Maid, by Alfred Lord Tennyson. 12 months ago, the king had a dream and no one could explain it. In the dream, one day, King Cophetua, a 40-years-old African king, was gazing out of a palace window at a very beautiful young black beggar girl on the palace street clad in torn all-gray clothes, but she glowed with an inner light. In the dream, as he was looking out of a palace window, the beautiful surreal figure smiled up at him. His heart skipped a beat. Hurriedly walking out into the street, the king scatters coins for all the beggars to gather. The young beggar girl in tattered gray clothes approached the king. Seeing her close, her clothing was even more frayed and dirty than ever imagined, a stark contrast of the opulent palace environment and its master. As dreams go, King Cophetua, in resplendent royal attire, proposes to the beggar girl amidst gasps from onlookers watching the ragtag beggar and the king in opulent robes and crown. He didn't seem to consider her clothing, but looked deeper and was seeing her inner glow as he tells her that she was to be his wife. She agrees to become his queen, and soon she loses all trace of her former poverty and low class. They get married. The king and his queen, who soon becomes the favorite of the people, always join the king in presiding over a peaceful and prosperous kingdom of Azura. The couple lives a quiet life during their princely reign, and are much loved by their people. Eventually they die and are buried in the same royal tomb. The majestic King Cophetua wakes up from the dream on a golden ornate bed. The bedroom has exquisitely African-inspired decor for royalty. He is deeply disturbed about the dream. 12 months later, we are in the land of Azura, deep in the African continent where the sun and rain join forces to command their places as gods, and when they are well remunerated, with offerings of their choices, unleash their warmth and dew to create one of the best and much sought-after location to live on Earth. Azura is a lush African landscape where the sun and rain create a paradise, with vibrant flora and fauna, a rich environment of dense greenery and colorful flowers. Here lived a young maiden named Nana, an orphan who had just come of age and recently bereaved of her uncle, the only surviving relative. She was a beggar of menial jobs to do to earn a living, always barefooted and clad in tattered robes, but her beauty shone like the brightest star in the night sky. She had been short-changed by 2 of the villagers she recently worked for, and had come to the king for redress. Her arms crossed over her breast, as she stood before the mighty King Cophetua, who was renowned for his just and fair rulings, though every man has a dark side. Cophetua was an African king known for his lack of sexual attraction to women. As is usual in any human habitation, the rumor mongers went to town with all sort of stories about the king's sexual disabilities. Some claimed he was infertile and couldn't sire a child. There was panic in the palace because this problem limited his lineage's succession on the throne, but don't forget this was just a rumor. Another camp felt he was castrated in his teenage days, for a youthful crime he committed in the neighboring village that almost led to war. The palace hid the truth from the public, of what happened and why their prince was detained for 7 days by the other village. No one dared speak out or question the king's private life in public, for fear of being sent into exile or even death. The lords, royal houses from the neighboring villages and the rich men, all tried to position their daughters for marriage, to forge an alliance. But he seemed not to notice or see any of the women brought his way, to the frustration of the palace and even the potential in-laws. Since the king had never been known to consort to any woman, there were silent whispers about his sexual preference. Behind closed doors and under the safety of the night, every word was used to describe him, but no one could boldly call him a non-heterosexual. And so, to King Cophetua the beggar maid came for justice. Lord Kwei, the king's scribe, whose beautiful daughter had been very close to the king as a child and he had had high hopes, read the room and grudgingly remembered the words of an old poem about beauty in the palace and the king's madness.
Her arms across her breast she laid. She was more fair than words can say. Barefooted came the beggar maid. Before the king Cophetua, in robe and crown the king stepped down, to meet and greet her on her way. It is no wonder said the lords. "She is more beautiful than day, as shines the moon in clouded skies. She in her poor attire was seen. One praised her ankles, one her eyes, one her dark hair and lovesome mien. So sweet a face, such angel grace, in all that land had never been. Cophetua swore a royal oath, this beggar maid shall be my queen."
The king, resplendent in his royal attire, stepped down from his throne and approached Nana with a curious gaze. In his mind he was already in love with her and mentally proposed marriage immediately. He was the king. His lords and advisors whispered even further among themselves, marveling at Nana's ethereal beauty. "She is more radiant than the dawn," they said. "Her eyes sparkle like the stars, and her dark hair cascades down her back like a waterfall of night." They asked each other if she would be the mother of the promised prophecy. The seers had foretold about a great heir of the king, a child that would work wonders in Azura kingdom. As Nana stood before the king, her poverty-stricken attire seemed to fade away, revealing a beauty that had never been seen before. The courtiers and advisors praised her ankles, her eyes, her hair, and her lovely countenance. King Cophetua was taken aback, his heart ensnared by Nana's grace and charm. The hood had never made the monk. The maiden named Nana's beauty did not stem from her garbs, but her poverty-stricken tattered robes faded away to reveal a radiating inner beauty. As she stood before King Cophetua in his opulent palace, the courtiers and advisors could not stop praising her. King Cophetua, resplendent in his royal attire on his throne, was watching her with a curious gaze, his heart ensnared by her grace and charm. King Cophetua listened intently to the beggar maid's plea, and passed judgment on those that cheated her, without recourse to hearing their own side of the story. The beautiful beggar maid standing barefooted before King Cophetua, in his grand palace of opulent throne room adorned with gold and marble, in contrast to her simple and tattered garment, had no idea what fate was about to befall her. All she wanted was for the wages she earned from her meager job to be paid in full. The king, on the other hand, was struck by love at first sight. King Cophetua finally swore a royal oath to make the beggar maid his queen, deciding that he will either have the beggar as his wife or commit suicide, amidst the astonished court. Everyone in the palace was taken aback. In shock, they asked each other if the celibate king was in love. But alas, Nana was already betrothed to a young man named Kwei, a humble farmer and warrior from a neighboring village. Their love was pure and true, forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by their shared struggles. She was torn between her love for Kwei and the king's pronouncement. Yet, King Cophetua was resolute in his desire to make Nana his queen, declaring that he would marry her and elevate her to the throne. Nana, torn between her love for Kwei and the king's promise of a life of luxury and power, was faced with an impossible choice. She allows it to run away with her for a while. As the days passed, Nana found herself drawn to the king's charismatic presence and the allure of the palace. But her heart remained with Kwei, and she knew that betraying him would bring ruin upon her soul. One fateful night, under the light of a full moon, Nana made her decision. She would choose Kwei, her true love, over the king's riches and glory. Together, they fled from the palace by night, the full moon illuminating their path as if it was a sign of approval from the gods. She left behind the trappings of power and the whispers of the court. But fate had other plans. Coming soon, the enchanting sequel to She Rejected the King's Love and This Happened. In part 2 of our captivating tale, Nana's daring escape from the palace with her true love, Kwei, leads them on a journey filled with danger, romance, and unexpected allies. Why did she choose love over luxury? Discover the depth of Nana's courage and the power of her heart as she navigates the challenges of life beyond the palace walls. Is Nana stupid to leave the splendor and opulence of the palace for the love of a poor farmer? As whispers of their flight spread, will King Cophetua's determination to reclaim his queen ignites a thrilling pursuit? Will the strength of Nana and Kwei's bond withstand the trials ahead? Will the king's dream find a new path, or will it unravel in the face of true love? Expect breathtaking landscapes, heart-pounding action, and a story that delves into the true meaning of love and sacrifice. Join us for the next chapter in the epic saga where love defies destiny and heroes are born from the most unexpected places. Stay tuned for a tale of the beautiful beggar maid and the love-stricken King Cophetua that will captivate your heart and keep you on the edge of your seat. The journey is far from over, and the best is yet to come. Remember, find out the rest of the story only on this channel. Don't miss it. Watch out for part 2.